everybody. My name is Ashley Perl, and I am a trauma-informed somatic healing coach. And today we are going to talk about a topic that is very, very near and dear to my heart, and that is the topic of the wisdom of anxiety. And I'm very passionate about supporting people with this because I understand firsthand what it feels like to live with anxiety, how anxiety can really take away our joy and our presence, our fulfillment in life, our sense of connection, and so much more. Of course, everyone experiences this differently. But we live in a world today where anxiety is truly an epidemic. There are millions of people that are struggling with it. There are millions of people that are medicated for it. And I want to come to you today with a different, perhaps fresh perspective that maybe you haven't heard before, so that you can start to explore some natural ways to liberate yourself from the hold that anxiety might have on you. And so we're going to go through 3 truths that exist about anxiety. And again, some of them you may have heard before, some maybe not. And my intention in sharing this is to open up your eyes to a different perspective on maybe anxiety being there to show you something. All right? So let us begin. So I basically sum this up into 3 truths, 3 truths about anxiety. And we know that anxiety presents itself in different ways for everybody. So however you experience it, I invite you to self-reflect as we go through all of these things, okay? So the first truth on how to open yourself up to the wisdom of anxiety is to understand that anxiety is not who you are, okay? Anxiety is not who you are. In the world today, we see so many people over-identifying with the identity of, I'm anxious, or I'm OCD, or I'm this, and I'm that. And while it's beautiful to have an understanding of what's going on inside of your body, it feels comforting, and sometimes the labels can help us, right? There's so, of course, a time and a place, and it's very, very helpful and valid. However, when we over-identify with something, and when we constantly reinforce this identity that I am anxious, we basically take away spaciousness where otherwise we'd be able to explore, get curious, and heal. Okay? And so the first actionable step for you, or an invitation rather, is to create some space between you and that identity, and to be really intentional with your language. Here's something that you can try on for size. Rather than saying, I am anxious, oh, I'm anxious, this is how I'm always going to be, my mom's anxious, her mom's anxious, okay? This is something I hear so much in our community. Create some space and say, I'm actually just experiencing sensations of anxiety, right? I'm experiencing anxiety. You aren't anxious. You aren't an anxious person forever. You're not doomed with this forever, but you're experiencing sensations of anxiety. And the reason why this is true, is that anxiety, just like other emotions, is simply energy. It's very chaotic energy that is looping in our system, okay? Often in our minds and our intrusive thoughts and things like this, but sometimes we can feel it in our systems, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And when we over-identify, we're just reinforcing this, okay? And so creating space and acknowledging that the energy in our system is just moving. It doesn't have anywhere to go. And our body is literally a vessel. You're the awareness, the body that is experiencing sensations of emotions. It can create a space and a separation between you and the thing you're experiencing. And it's in that space where the healing begins, where the curiosity begins. Make sense? So humans experience anxiety for such a myriad of reasons, some of which we'll get into. Some people are predisposed to anxiety, perhaps based on their upbringing. Maybe they had it modeled to them to always be fearful, to always worry, to be worst case scenario thinkers. Maybe some of you resonate with that. maybe some of you are similar to me and you had grandparents in the Holocaust. All four of my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and what I saw from generation to generation was this fear and this anxiety. And we're going to talk about healing generational trauma in an upcoming training, so that's going to be next month, so stay tuned for that, and I'll share more about my personal story and my family story. But just because you're predisposed to it, okay, doesn't mean that you're doomed to have this for life. And the research in epigenetics actually proves this, that just because you're predisposed to something or have family members that experience the same thing, it doesn't mean that you're meant to have this forever. Just because you're experiencing it, it just means that it's your opportunity to heal it. And that's what I want to really empower everyone here to really recognize and acknowledge, is that it might not be your fault that you experience anxiety, or you might not even understand why you experience it, and that's okay. But if it's there, there's an opportunity to heal it, and separating from it is the first step, okay? So that's truth number one. You are not your anxiety, and your anxiety is not you, okay? Our truth number two is that anxiety is simply just a messenger of information. Anxiety is simply just a messenger of information. If you think about your body as having a communication system, okay? When you get sick, that means something. When you feel an emotion, that means something. It's all a communication system. Anxiety is a message that your body is sending you. It's actually a very natural body and nervous system response to let you know, right, the operator of your body, to let you know that there is a lack of safety in your system, either real or perceived. And let me explain what I mean by that. A real threat to your system, a threat to your safety in your system could be, let's say you're walking in a dark alley in the middle of the night and you're starting to feel nervous and anxious. It's a pretty normal response, right? Thank God for our bodies having that response, so that a flag goes off and says, okay, Ashley, maybe you shouldn't be walking alone in this alley at night, okay? That is a real threat. Now, a perceived threat is when your body believes that there's a lack of safety, that something is not feeling safe, but you actually are quite safe. So maybe there's a time where you're going to a social gathering and your heart's pounding, you're sweating, you're nervous, you feel a pit in your stomach. Your body is perceiving that environment to not be safe, when actually it's, you're with friends, it should feel quite safe. But this is where our mind and our bodies aren't on the same page. This is where there's that disconnection, if that makes sense. And because the sensation of anxiety can be so uncomfortable for people, it can feel so uncomfortable that what we do is that we learn to numb it or suppress it or ignore it or, medicate it, which there's a time and a place to receive support, right? Of course, in order to function from day to day. But here we're talking about some natural approaches. And, so many times my clients will tell me, I haven't told a soul that I experience anxiety. They'll say, no one even knows I'm anxious. Or if I tell them I'm anxious, they're surprised. And that's very normal for humans to do, to try to numb, to run away, to suppress, to not even admit to ourselves that this is what we're experiencing. But all that does is it suppresses that energy. It suppresses all of that stuff in your body. And what's likely to happen is that anxiety is going to show up in other ways. So it might show up as you overreact with your partner, or you can't sleep at night and you have insomnia, or you experience some physical ailments. And this is why it's so important to see anxiety as this messenger of information and wisdom, and to lean in and to get curious around, what are you here to teach me? Now, this will take actual safety in feeling your emotions and leaning in, and it's so much easier said than done. I understand this, which is why it can be helpful to work with a coach or a therapist or someone who can support you in this. But I promise you that if you're experiencing anxiety, it's not just chance. It's not just, oh, luck of the draw, you're an anxious person, there you go. There's a reason for it, okay? And I talk about this not lightly because I know how isolating it can feel. I know how exhausting it can be to wear this mask as if we're not anxious at all. I've lived it, okay? And I'm living proof that there is a possibility to heal from it and to lessen the burden that we carry with it, okay? So I share that just to say that this healing work can sometimes feel really heavy, but it doesn't have to. And the first step, truly the first step in healing from something, is to bring awareness to it. If we pretend it doesn't exist, if we don't share it, if we keep it all inside, it's just going to come out in other ways. And so my invitation to you is, when anxiety presents itself, to get curious about it. You know, is there a certain situation, are there certain people that when you spend time with them, your anxiety is skyrocketing? What's happening before you're feeling it, during, after? All of this is information for you that is just asking to be looked at. It's a flag that says, hey, there's something within me here that needs healing. And it's very, very informative once we lean in. And to say, hey, anxiety, let's pull up a chair, sit here, let's have a cup of coffee, and let me get to know you, okay? So that's truth number 2, okay? Anxiety is literally a messenger of information. And this brings us to our final third truth about the wisdom of anxiety, which is that you cannot think your way out of anxiety completely. You can't think your way out of feeling anxious. And this is where the mind-body connection, the understanding that there's a mind-body connection, and that is the true sustainable pathway to healing. I'll actually, mind, body, and soul connection, I'll finish that up, because I do believe that it's a conversation with all three that creates true balance and true healing in this life. But it's a bit of a paradox, because you can't, we learn about mindset work and affirmations, and often when clients come to me, they say, I'm reading all the things, I'm learning, I have so much information, I have awareness, I have knowledge, but I'm still feeling anxious, and I don't know what to do, I don't know how to find my center. This is because your mind and your body need to be on the same page. And when anxiety exists, like I said earlier, it's a sign that your body believes that there is a lack of safety, either real or perceived. And so what do we do when we don't feel safe? What feels most natural in our bodies, our human bodies, our reptilian brains? Let's get up in our thoughts. Let's try to figure out how to feel more safe. Let's try to control life a little bit more. Often people that feel anxious also feel like they're controlling, or they experience perfectionism, which is another topic we're going to talk about next month. So show up for that live too, people pleasing and perfectionism. But what you'll find is all of these things go hand in hand. And so leaning in and learning to understand yourself, learning to get curious around what is here, getting rid of the shame, finding compassion for yourselves as you explore this, finding support as you explore this, is going to be so supportive. Now, there's another really important element here about why incorporating the body is so important. Anxiety and that lack of perceived safety can be a sign that our bodies are stuck in what's called the flight or fight response. Maybe some of you have heard of this. Maybe some of you are knowledgeable about the human body. Well, the human body has a very, very, very wise and intelligent system called the autonomic nervous system. Think about it like the automatic, how can my body digest without me intentionally thinking about it? How can I breathe without having to consciously think, okay, take another inhale and exhale. Now, when that's all working perfectly fine, it acknowledges real threats as real threats, but everything else, it stays calm, okay? We're in the rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. For people who are really, really anxious, or who experience hypervigilance and that sensation of anxiety in their system, it is similar to when you experience perhaps a real scary threat, someone chasing you. You're sweating, your heart's racing. Right? All of these things, your breath becomes shallow. Your body literally thinks that it's not safe, but it is. And so a tangible step that you can do and take in for yourself in your journey is, how can you begin to convince your body in those moments where you're starting to feel anxious that that you're actually safe and everything's okay. Some of you might know this already. I teach breath work. I guide breath work. I share a lot of different breath work practices with people because breath work and breathing in a slow and sustained way can let the brain know, hey, I know you think we're not safe right now, but actually we are. And it's like this self-navigation that we have to learn, this self-mastery with our emotions and everything else that we get to lean into in order to increase safety in our physical bodies. And when we feel safe in our physical bodies, we get to feel grounded in who we are. And we get to show up to life as the true versions of us. And we get to show up in our relationships feeling safe to express, feeling confident that we can say how we're truly feeling and not be afraid of what's going to happen. So it's so important to understand that there's so much wisdom in the anxiety that you might be experiencing, and thinking your way out of it. If you've been learning through books and podcasts and these lives, I commend you because this is the first step. Awareness is, of course, the first step. But if you only have the awareness, that's just not enough for most people. Okay, I hope that it's enough for you. I hope. And what I've seen is that it's not always enough to really see the changes in our reality and the changes in our state, okay? And so hopefully some of these truths have helped you look at anxiety in a new light and realize there's no shame in experiencing anxiety. There's a reason why millions and millions of people experience this. And you're not alone. And I promise you that if you begin to lean in and explore, you'll be able to find relief. You'll be able to find answers. And I really, truly wish you the best of luck with it. So I'm going to leave you with just a couple things to chew on as far as some tangible things you can take away. Okay? You ready? So earlier I mentioned that anxiety is directly tied to feeling safe. So an invitation for you is to explore your relationship to safety. Do you feel safe in your body? Do you feel safe in your environment? If you experienced a lack of safety growing up, depending on how you were raised or what your childhood was like, check out the Inner Child Healing video if you're curious to learn more about this. But it could be that your body and your system is stuck in this everything is not safe state when you actually are safe. And this is where we get to heal our nervous systems. This is where we can use tools like breath work, like coaching, like therapy, like meditation, like visualizations to really come to a place where we know that we are grounded and safe, okay? So that's the first thing to explore, your relationship to safety. Our relationship to safety is going to be at the core of everything, okay? The second is a question, so you can journal on this if you feel called or just think about it. Ask yourself, if my anxiety was here to teach me something, or if my anxiety wanted to show me something, what might it be trying to teach me? And just allow yourself to free write on this, because you might be surprised with the information you actually already know, okay? In the somatic work that I do, somatic meaning body-centered, body-based, bridging that mind-body connection together so that we can experience sustainable healing and growth. In somatic work, it's all about leaning in and tuning into the wisdom and the information that your body already knows. It's about acknowledging that your body has this whole communication system if you lean in and listen to it. And so that's what I'm going to leave you with tonight. I would love to know how this landed for you. If you have any questions at all, I will link my name when we post this video here in a few minutes. I'll link my Instagram, and you can reach out with any questions, anything else you want to hear on these future trainings, because we're going to be doing more of them. We've been loving them, and it sounds like you all have been finding them impactful, so that's great. Please reach out. And for anyone that is feeling burdened by anxiety, I just, again, want to reiterate from the beginning, you are not alone. This isn't something you are doomed with. There is absolutely space to heal your relationship with your anxiety and to transform it and to find relief from it, okay? So I hope you have a beautiful rest of your morning, day, evening, and I will see you in the next training. Bye.